Hey Peter, yeah, this is a really awesome shot. Thanks for sending it to me. Um, I my first thought looking at it though was maybe it's a little bit quick, like for creature animation. I know they're raptors and that, but they feel maybe I'm not really getting to enjoy some of the cool stuff that's going on, maybe because it's so quick. As a quick test to see kind of roughly, I made a play blast and I grabbed a little bit of Richard Ode's reel from Horizon, which I feel is probably the inspiration looking at the design of this guy. And I just kind of compared it. And it's not like for like because his reel is at 30 frames a second, where yours is at 24. But just in terms of how much happens in the frame in the time here, it just feels like this. It's not wrong. It's just if it was like from a cartoony shot, I think this would be awesome. I just feel like it's a little bit fast maybe for a creature work to kind of really show weight and overlap and stuff. So there's a few ways you can play around with it. Like one thing I use is this little tool I have called BH Speed GUI. It's a free tool on my Gumroad, and it just allows you to basically play with the playback speed. You can do that through the preferences in Maya. Like you don't need this tool, but I just find it's a little bit quicker to do it, so I can quickly just hit that and go to half speed. Obviously, that's way too slow. Or I can try quarter speed, and obviously that's going to be even slower. But with this little slider here, I can go back to one set and try like maybe point 0.8. I actually don't mind that. It's not bad. Say, let me just try going down one more. 7. But that's starting to feel a bit slow now for raptors. If you're going to say that they're light, nimble creatures, I feel like that's so. I feel like point 0.8 is maybe about right. So that's like 20% slower. So moment around 43 frames. I'm not going to do math in this area today. 43 multiplied by 1.2 is 51. So maybe that's 51.6. Maybe let's call it 52 frames. So first thing I'm gonna do is just gonna retime your shot. I've saved your shot as my own file here so I can mess around with it. Um, and I won't let you watch all of the ins and outs of fiddling around with this stuff, but I'll take a break and I'll come back with that shot quickly retimed to like say 52 frames. Okay, so I've done a quick pass with just retiming it. It's probably introduced a little bit of noise that wasn't there, unfortunately, because we're interpolating some frames. And I've baked it on one. So I've taken out a frame here on head controls here, just interpolate there because it's just getting a little bit noise. I think that was just a part of retiming. I just feel like this. If I play blast it now, I'm able to read stuff a little bit better. It still feels nice, and like this guy particularly feels nice and scrumpy. I still think it feels fast, but I think it's just a little bit nicer. Thing I'm doing there, I'm just flipping it. I'm a key and keyframe. Just as I'll flip it or even make it smaller, kind of looks like a GIF on a phone or something to see if it still reads. Anything I can really to just trick my eye into seeing it from a different angle or from a more fresh view. But yeah, I feel like that timing kind of feels better to me now overall. And a lot of what I would do then would be just tracking arcs, which I think you've already been doing. Like I can see some nice stuff happening already. But one of the tricky things with a shot like this is, like this jump. You've got two controls here affecting kind of the height of his body. You've got this one, then I think it's this. This is kind of cog control, whereas this is his. I guess well, that's called cog, but I guess it's moving his whole body. So the tricky thing with that is like that will land, and then the other control will kind of your graph editor curves basically won't make that much sense on this control. So sometimes what I might do is add a temporary control to that. Um, Again, it's kind of a VFX sort of workflow is to just stick everything in world space and to deal with them that way. Um, I'll give you a look at how I would do it. I have my own tool for doing it. A lot of people use Animbot, like has a world space or temp controls, or there's EB Labs. I think it's another one. There's various tools that do this, but I'm going to select all the stuff that's probably in world. I think I'm okay to. Yeah, I'm just going to take these three controls and yeah, for the moment, and I'm just going to use world space tool. I'm going to create baked controls for those, and then I can just take this control and leave it there, for example. That's where I want it to end up. I'll just kill all the other keys on it. Keys. So the animation doesn't look any different, hopefully. Everything's going okay. But the that control now is no longer affecting him. I've just kind of placed it basically where I want him to end up. And now I'll just beg for my world space controls. So now I've got that information back on these controls. But the thing is now it's a little bit simpler for me in the graph editor. I'm actually going to change the color of this control. Make which one it is. Oh, change that for some reason. Not to worry. Look at it in the graph editor anyway. This one, um, you can see now if I look in the graph editor, like translate Y, it's a lot simpler. It's a lot kind of cleaner. A little annoying, but we can deal with that. The other thing, obviously, I would do a lot is use motion trails to kind of look at the path. I'm sure you do that as well. You can use the Animbot one or the native ones. This is quite like, and you can kind of see again. This might be because of my retiming stuff. I can see that the arc isn't super nice, so I'm just going to nudge him up. A tool I use a lot actually in Maya that's kind of hidden is the Alt plus arrow keys, where you can just nudge stuff in camera space. I really like that actually for just kind of cleaning up and stuff. Give them a bit more hang time. I really want to exaggerate the hang time. It's going to make the legs look a bit wonky, but the other thing I want to do is I want to make sure the landing feels really heavy. Keep them up a little bit more, so the spacing between that last E. I'm kind of looking at it, if I can do like a screen drawing here. I kind of want the spacing as he starts to say this is his highest point. I want it to start getting bigger, and then that one to be the biggest. I want these gaps, these distances to get progressively larger, so that when he lands, I really feel that weight. And then when he lands, I might actually have him just come forward a little bit. Maybe kind of back. I'm kind of looking at this, trying to make it more of a spiral sort of shape. It kind of hits a wall there a little bit. It kind of stops quite quickly. You do much, so I think let's have a look at it. Again, it's upside down, but yeah, soften that just a little bit, give it a little bit more hang time. Here, I'm kind of just working a bit blind there for a second, just doing a bit of graph editor stuff. Yeah, it's not bad. It's a bit juddery, a bit quick, maybe. Down, back up. Up. Going into that up. Hold on to that for a little bit, and then come pushing that forward a frame. And that no, I've got those. That one. Let's see that. Yeah, that feels a little bit better. And that's generally how it would kind of work with something like this. I just think about the cog first and get that feeling nice. I won't have time to go through this obviously and polish every single thing, but I'll just kind of give you some broad notes on it. The other thing I would maybe look at would be these controls. They're kind of separating from the character as he comes off the ground. If I look at the motion path of them, they're not bad in terms of spacing, but they're not really controlling the pose maybe quite as well as they could. Because once you get past that, the IK is just overextended, so it's not really controlling the pose quite as much. Like, I don't want to like break his leg completely, or if I do, maybe I want to. I'm just trying to get a bit more intentional in the actual kind of shape change of the leg. I'll just do one side. I won't. Just a quick example on this one, I guess, will be something a bit more. Again, trying to keep two legs slightly different so they don't look the same, but and then at this point, I need to work with this. Maybe keep them up a bit higher. Really kind of compress. Like there, I think maybe it's straightening too early. So like have this bit where at the beginning, at the top of the arc, basically, he kind of crunches up, and that'll give you more shape change than when he lands. Exaggerate. I do a quick kind of pass it, really pushing that, and then we don't have it come down quite so quickly. It's sort of reaching out all right, but not maybe quite coming there. Now with his toe, these are kind of things you would play with depending on the character. Landing with a toe first might feel a bit delicate, or it might feel appropriate for the character. It depends on, like, his design is kind of interesting. It's kind of like a kangaroo almost. Have this one then a bit more delayed again. Still kind of. Uh, so we're kind of seeing it's almost like the bouncing ball, basically. Like it's like at the top of the thing, everything gathers in. At the top of the apex, everything's kind of gathered in, and then as it comes down, you start seeing it stretch out again, and the stretch on the way up. So it's got that up stretch gathered at the bottom, at the top, and then stretching on down, and then landing squashed. So it's always a bouncing ball. um, so that the idea of you know bringing those legs up higher is just to kind of make him more compressed at the apex to kind of give him that sort of shape change then as he comes down. So you see that kind of change. You can definitely have these reach, overextend too much. Feel that kind of, just in the last couple of frames, we see the leg catching the weight, and then we see a big change then as the weight. I don't know the rig very well. It would be cool if you could maybe uh just be cool if you could move this part, like the kind of hips separately to show that weight there, a little bit like the scapulas in a cat or something, just to show it. The other thing then I would probably spend a lot of time on would be the head, the path of the head. I think you've got some really nice drag and overlap here as he comes down. Um, I think this is really nice. I think it could maybe come through, like it kind of feels like it hits a wall a little bit here. Like it's just kind of rotating rather than moving in space. I think it could come down because it's been moving so quickly. Again, if I just imagine, the spacing, like it's here basically, and then it's here. There's quite a lot of change from those two poses. And here it's starting to slow down. Maybe it shouldn't slow down quite so much yet. Maybe it should still be down here, and then we should see more of a slow out, more of a recovery. It just feels like I think it's partly what I'm picking up on is it just feels like his neck feels very spindly and kind of like it should be flexible, and it is flexible a lot of the shots. So it feels like there it shouldn't maybe catch him quite so quickly. I feel like his head should be there, and then it should maybe be, if I could translate his head. I can't. I'm gonna break the. Sorry, rigger. Delete. Unlock these. Yeah, there, so don't break that. Close, and then I'd probably translate it down a bit more here. Really, and then zero transforms again. Just that's probably a little bit too much, but you get the idea. I'm trying to exaggerate for clarity. The other thing would be to look at the overall arc of it. I feel like, again, some of this might be coming by retiming. The path of the head, I think it could be a little bit cleaner during this bit. I think it might be tricky because you've got FK head. You can see there's a lot of noise in there. Again, if I was just going to brute force it, actually, what I'll do is I will brute force it. Just to give you an example, I'll get rid of the motion for a second. I just stuck a motion or a world space control on the head, and I'll track that. What I would probably do is just, and then now this is going to make your neck poses look horrible. I do apologize. I'd probably just, kind of go through and kind of fix these, make this arc really nice. Job now, but that kind of thing, and then keep that going, and maybe having more drag here, so this arc just kind of flows nicely. And then here, he kind of like hits a wall in this axis and it comes up. So I might have him kind of come through a bit more. Here he hits and hits. So I might have him, I'd probably try and have him settle in sort of more of like a figure eight. Like if I was to draw it, again, this is time consuming stuff, but I come up, do this kind of thing, that's an exaggerated version of it, but that's kind of the trail motion I'd be looking for. I think, and the other thing would be to kind of play with the rotation of it more as well. It feels like it just hits this rotation a little bit too early, like I'm talking about World Z, maybe kind of a little bit more like that. I kind of like that because I feel like it expresses a bit more than the straight up and down head. It feels almost, like a puppy, kind of curious. You don't want to make him cute. He's I presume he's some sort of scary machine. You don't want to make him cute, but at the same time, I think there's a little bit of angle there in the head might give it a bit more intent, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And again here, like I feel at the end, it's a little bit too square, so maybe a little angled here or here, maybe to counter at the body. Maybe like one to break that rule would be to have him pointing straight at us, maybe just to really kind of intimidate us, So making changes on different there that are breaking on the next frame, so it's gonna be quite a noisy sort of fix. The other thing I would maybe look at, again, this might be handier if you had an IK head. I think you do have it, but it's not animated that way. I would keep the head there and I would fix the neck poses. I'd almost probably do the neck. Without, they don't move actually either. So yeah, it's an FK neck. True, but it doesn't have translates unlocked on it. It's just my point is that the neck pose is feeling a little bit noisy here at the end. I would maybe just simplify it a little bit. The overlap stuff is really nice. Early on here, like this kind of breaking of the shapes and the S curve, changing to a C curve and so on. That's nice. But I think by the end, like here, it's starting to feel a little bit busy, I think, shape-wise. I just kind of try and simplify it a little bit there as well. It feels like more like it should be just a nice flow into the body rather than breaking too many angles like that. Certainly for a frame or two, it's fine for the overlap, but maybe so long that we can kind of see it. I haven't talked about this guy at all, this guy over here. I think I really like the scramble you've got coming in. A little bit hidden behind the box, unfortunately. One thing that might be nice, just a quick suggestion on him. I realize this video is quite long. Don't make it any longer than I should, but just to suggest one thing. I kill these drawings on. I might just find a more dynamic pose just for the last pose. I don't know, just maybe push the hips more. Just feels like it's like when the weight transfers, from foot to foot. I might have it more. I'm not familiar with the rig too well. Just have the hips more like this here, and then when he comes into the final foot, when the weight kind of comes onto this foot, I have it more like, I just to kind of really see that shape change, so, like, kind of going from down to up. Like the hips in a walk cycle, the way that they'll when the planted leg is on the ground and the other leg is bent off the ground. It's a terrible terrible drawing, but that kind of thing. The hips will tend to drop on the side that the leg is. This is this is a front view of a, I don't know what kind of person, but this is why I do CG, because I'm not good at drawing. So yeah, I think that's a lot probably to play around with. But I think, yeah, if I was just sum it up, I think the broad strokes would be maybe retime it a little bit, slow it down a little bit, so we've got more time to see stuff. Focus on the weight, like the bouncing ball aspect of the body, like the main mass of the body, and then maybe look at some of the leg poses, break them up a little bit more, and then just look at the head. I say it would be easier if the head was unlocked and the head was in IK, I think. So maybe be something you could look at, or maybe you could what I've done sometimes when I want to change, look at that gimbal. When I want to change something broadly is actually just do like an alembic cache of it, like of the character, and just bring it into my scene and then just copy it with the switching the head to IK. You might have, I don't know, your rigger might have given you an IK/FK matching script for the head that might allow you to solve that. But if not, I would just like literally copy where the head is with the IK rig and just go from there. And then the other point I made was just about kind of making it a little bit easier for yourself in the graph editor by not having two controls affecting the height of the character. Like play with that separately, just makes it a little bit more controllable. That's a lot, and I hope some of it's useful. I really was just playing with your file and breaking stuff most of this video, but I hope it helps maybe explain some of my thought process for kind of creature stuff. It is very detail oriented and very fiddly and iterative, but that's part of the fun of it as well. It's you can really go to town and polish, like with feature animation and those kind of stuff. So I hope that helps. Cheers.